South, Dr. Jerome Walcott.
We bringing it home with Jerome Walcott. We bringing it home with Jerome Walcott. We bringing it home with Jerome. We bringing it home. We bringing it home.
Good evening to you, the wonderful people of Christchurch West. Good evening to you. First of all, I must begin by endorsing the candidacy of Dr. Maria Agard, who I know to be a wonderful person, a dedicated individual, a committed individual, with a very caring personality. And I think that most of you would know that she has a very Catholic upbringing, having spent many years and very devoted to the Catholic Church and involved in charities at that church. Maria is dedicated to the church. She is not like the members of the Democratic Labour Party who find themselves, like they did a couple Sundays ago, at the gymnasium for a religious service, which they partake in once every 5 years. Maria is devoted to her Lord. She's devoted to her people. She's devoted to her patients. And I'm sure that come February the 21st, you will ensure that the matter is settled in Christchurch West. Having said that, it is easy. Having said that, Maria is up against a Miss Verla de Pisa, I think is the name. I'm going to call it. Don't know the individual. Have never met her. I think most of you, like me, have only seen her on television on a legal program where she looks extremely timid and lacking in knowledge. I'm going to ensure that she does. But she finds it. She is running in Christchurch West. While she should be here, walking around and making herself known to some of you, because no one knows her. You've never seen her. She's not from up here. She finds herself in the heart of Christchurch South to speak about me as a Minister of Health. She's coming to Christchurch South to speak about me. We have never spoken to each other but she comes to speak about me and my record as the Minister of Health. What I do know is that come the 21st of February, she and her brother will go down in history in this country as being the first brother and sister, or two sisters, to have ever lost an election in this country. And she has the temerity to speak about me and my record as Minister of Health. And her brother is the chairman of the QEH. And that is where we are going to start this evening. Because the Democratic Labour Party, in the last election, promised all sorts of things. You heard it tonight. Cost of living, pathways to progress, building a society. You name it, every night it was something else. But they promised you transparency and good governance. And I'm going to use her brother and the Minister of Health as examples of this transparency and good governance. This evening, right now, in police custody, is a former member of staff of the QEH, who is a member of a prominent DLP family, and he's in police custody for fraud. No, I don't know his name. Don't know his name. He is in custody. Over $500,000 missing QEH at a time when it is short of alcohol, cotton wool, gauze, gloves, toilet paper, needles, short of everything. $500,000. transparency, and good governance. And she has the temerity to speak about me as a Minister of Health. In that institution, where her brother is the chairman, a baby, an infant, might have died last May for lack of a piece of equipment costing $10,000. And a relative of and I'm going to be very careful, Ralph, and a relative with a surname similar to that of a board member was brought back to Barbados by ambulance for $45,000, and an infant might have died for lack of a piece of equipment costing $10,000. And we speak about governance and transparency. You have heard William Dugan speak at length in Parliament about the state of affairs in terms of procurement policies at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. It is shrouded in all sorts of things that you should not be involved in when it comes to procurement. This person is related to that person, is ordering from this person who is not family of this person, is family of someone, and might be related to the minister. And you have that state of affairs within that department, where Comrade Duguid pointed out to you hundreds of thousands of dollars spent in buying pieces of equipment, gloves, colostomy bags from overseas from a company that could have been purchased locally at half the price. And they speak about transparency and good governance. In that institution, while she is speaking about records, she needs to let her brother tell her how many persons might have died, how many patients who attend dialysis or attended dialysis died during the period July to September last year because of faulty and disreputable procurement practices in the QEH. I am speaking about life and death. And that is where it comes home. Because these same bunch of jokers spoke about building a society and not only an economy. They have destroyed the economy. And how can you build a society when human life seems to have little worth as far as they're concerned? And she's speaking about records. Tell us about the drug service. How many thousands of Barbadians, elderly Barbadians, who have contributed to the building of this society cannot get medication unless they can pay a user fee or spend hours in the polyclinic waiting to get their medication. Many of them they are not in a position to go there and wait for hours. And when they go to the polyclinic, oftentimes the medication is not available. They're given, instead of 4 weeks, they're given 2 weeks and told to come back. That is what is happening in this society tonight. And you have a prime minister, an accidental prime minister, saying over all of this, and nothing is being done about it. And people are suffering. Persons, retired persons, pensioners, persons with hypertension and diabetes are suffering in this country. And a minister can come to you and tell you about saving $12 million. At what cost? In terms of mortality, in terms of persons who have died, in terms of morbidity, in terms of diabetes and uncontrolled diabetics, and persons who develop strokes because of uncontrolled high blood pressure. And you tell me that you saved $12 million by introducing harsh, draconian, and uncanny measures on the backs of Barbadians. That is wrong. It is wrong. And you, the people of Barbados, have to send a message to the wicked Democratic Labour Party to express your displeasure in how they are handling your affairs. In this case, certainly in terms of the pharmacy system. You have thousands of persons in this country who have lived here for years, quite a few in this constituency, have been married, they've had families, they've worked, they've paid taxes. 30, 40 years in Barbados. You think it is fair that when some of these persons now who have spent all of their formative years in this country, in the evening of their lives, when they reach 68 and 70, to be told that they have to pay for their medication. Some of these people are poor. They're renting. They have to buy food that is increasing in price every day. They have to get their clothing. And then they have to decide if they can afford the medication and which medication they can afford. People are dying because of these measures. We cannot bury our heads in the sand. This is not right. And in a society you say you're building, in a developed society, in 2013, and they have the temerity to come to you and to tell you that them's now and them's again, but you should be telling them never again. But I go on. We have a minister of education, or so I think. And they're telling you, the citizens of Barbados, that if you vote for the Barbados Labour Party, free education will cease. Free university education will cease. That will be the end of school meals. You said, don't mind who? Who's she? The Minister of Education is she? I don't know. I thought it was Mr. Jones. He wears her his shoes, but it is not a she. But can you imagine? They are telling you this at a time when they owe the university $150 million. And the university is considering not allowing any Barbadian students to enter in September. You understand? They're saying that if you vote for us, that will cease. But while they are there, it seems inevitable. They have taken us, never in the history of Barbados, never have we been in such a state as it relates to university education and Barbadians. You've heard it happening throughout the region, but never in Barbados. And you have this Minister Jones parading and gesticulating and creating a mess at Alexandra School, where, as I speak, you have a Spanish teacher assigned to teach French. And up to last week, CXC French students had not had any French taught for the first 4 weeks of the term. And we speak about governance and good governance. A whole commission of inquiry, $600,000 of your and my taxes, to tell them what a report told them the year before. And there was no action. And you talk about good governance. Next door, you have the Minister of Public Works, Mr. John Boyce, who they say is a trained engineer. I think chemical engineer, a brewer, and had a liking for things that are brewed. In charge of public works, knows everything. 3 roundabouts, $150 million, and over 3.5 years to be completed, and still not complete. It took longer to construct roundabouts than to widen the highway from Graham Hall to Warrens. And they speak about good governance. He is minister. And on Friday, 67 buses were available, transport board buses, to carry persons around Barbados. When we demitted office in 2008, there were over 200 buses. And he is an engineer, and he is in charge, and he knows everything. Governance, good governance. Can you imagine? All he can boast about in 5 years is to rename the market at Oistins and to now open a walkover on the highway. $3 million. A walkover. It has been opened and not a fella has used it yet. And we talk about good governance and transparency. You have the minister, Stephen Lashley, I believe is his name. Building a society. Minister of Family, Culture, Sports and Youth. I believe he has been as successful in his ministry as his statue. Minister of Family. HIV/AIDS program that we left as an example to the rest of the region and indeed to the developing world. World Bank reporting that it is in shambles under his watch and under his leadership and should be transferred. Culture. Well, before I go on to culture, family I must go back because in their last campaign, they made much to do about family and families first. Have you heard anything about any families first since David Thompson took ill? That went to the grave with him. But you have a minister of family. But he's also a minister of culture. And you know that the NCF has been in a total mess since he's been there. CEO gone, Wayne Simmons gone, all the LP people gone. Pure control down there. He is controlling meetings. He is chairing meetings. As minister. Sports. This is February. None of you know when the track at the National Stadium will be complete. Historically, everyone knows athletic season. For the last 2 years, or rather 3 years, he has been promising you that there's going to be this new state-of-the-art track. And then he goes on television every so often giving you a press conference. When will it be completed? You are the Minister of Sports. How are the footballers managing? How are the cyclists managing? And then we come to sports. And he has responsibility for that. And he can go to Ellerton last night and report to those, I heard it was about 2,000 or 3,000, mostly persons over 40, about what they have done for the youth, a youth policy, and that they have done more than the BLP. What have they done? They are young people who I challenge any one of them to identify a single policy initiative that has been implemented by this government in the last 5 years in terms of the youth. They came with a glossy document, a youth policy. And it was just gloss and fluff, specific about nothing. And that is the sort of thing, that is the sort of governance we speak about. And we go further. A minister of housing. I know you don't want me to say much about him. What I can be said about him can be summed up in two numbers, 5 and 10. And I'm not speaking about dollars or cents. But that can be summed up. And he is around this country saying that he has produced all of these housing solutions, this, that. How many are occupied? How many are occupied? And if you give, and if you want, and if you give a key, Barbadians, 46 years after independence, have to be paraded on the television screen. If you get a house to buy or even to rent a unit, you now have to be carried across the television screen at 7 o'clock for everyone here and elsewhere to see you, a simple black person, getting a rental unit. You have to be advertised. How denigrating for black people, 46 years of independence. And this is what you come to expect from a minister and a government in terms of housing. They are responsible to provide housing. They're the ones that said they were going to house every last person. You're not seeing any blinds. But I know that the ones that they showed on television last week those people are still to get the keys. Even though you saw the Prime Minister lying down ready to sleep again. Took back the keys. And that is what we have in terms of housing. And then you have the environment. One called Minister Low. But the people in Christchurch usually refer how low can you get. But they must know. And he is the Minister of Environment. And Minister of Environment. But you know, it almost makes me speechless that you can imagine. Low. And I call him Low. Not Dr. Low. No Dr. Low. I don't have it as bogus. But there's no record of him getting any doctorate in anything. But he's parading as Dr. Low. They say there's a psychiatric illness. Sometimes you get these hallucinations that you might feel you're a doctor. But he is worse than that. This buffoon is in charge of your environment and sanitation and solid waste and recycling and does not have a clue about anything he's dealing with. His most recent job, of course, is to provide cutlasses and hose and fluorescent jackets for people to weed. And I want to tell some of you who might be benefiting, of course take the job. But remember that once you see jobs sharing out 3 or 4 weeks before an election, you know what it is. There is no security of tenure there. So you might vote for him, he might win, and you might find you are still out of job. But getting back to him, and he knows about everything. Do you know that the Sanitation Services Authority owes over $3 million to the NIS in terms of deductions from the salaries of persons there? National insurance. And he is parading, and he is promising you an incinerator. He is promising you solar energy. He's promising you wind turbines. He's promising the only thing he is not promising at Mangrove is wave power. And I believe if a technocrat had written in the paper that we're going to generate wave power from the sea at Mangrove, Minister Lowe would come and tell you that too. He is so smart. That buffoon. And he's a minister. And then we go into agriculture. I believe it is Dr. Eswick. And he's responsible for Water Authority. And he is now speaking gloriously about a reverse osmosis plant. And this government will be embarking on this plant. And this will transform the bell and allow us to free up. What nonsense! That was started by us before we demitted office. It was in our manifesto. The plans were well advanced. Indeed, when Dr. Eswick took over the Ministry of Health, it was part of the program because water was withheld. And he dismissed it in the first budget as nonsense. 4 years later, he is now ready to extol this as the greatest project of the Democratic Labour Party. Isn't that deception? But you know he's just hot here. Because all during the time when David Thompson was ill, a dying man in his bed, he was threatening to resign if he didn't get this. He was going to do that. He has done nothing. Pure heart here, loud, full of fire and brimstone, nothing. Just an angry man. And I know the wrath can bear me out on this. These people who manifest this anger like this are people who are carrying anger from their teenage and boyhood days. And it's always often related to abuse. And the abuse might have been mental, physical, or sexual. But they carry that anger for their life. So that when you see him with this anger and this bombus, pray for him. Pray for him. He has no control over it. He is not a vet. Or you're saying he's a pit bull. But there are vets within his ministry, and perhaps they can control him. But before I go, I must speak to Mr. Ainsley Ben. Ainsley Ben down in St. Peter attacking me. All I will say about Ainsley Ben is that when we speak about being able to read and write, we speak about those who are literate, those who are illiterate, and those who are semi-literate. All I would say about Ainsley Ben is that for him, you will have to create a special category between those who are illiterate and those who are semi-literate. And I would call it Ben. Ben literate. But enough of that. What I am here to tell you this evening is that you have had 5 years of maladministration, 5 years of broken promises, 5 years of lies, 5 years of deception, 5 years of incompetence. And it is time for you to make a decision. And your decision can be clear. Clear. If you had to do it now, if you have to do it tomorrow, if you have to do it on the 21st, it is one decision. 5 years, you have had enough of them. And I'm saying that on the 21st, you have no choice but to vote for Maria Agard in Christchurch West from 6 to 6 and to ensure that she is returned as part of the Barbados Labour Party team to rescue, restore, and rebuild this country. Because we know there is a better way. There is the BLP way. There is a better tomorrow. And we know with your votes and God's guidance and under ONR's leadership, we will take Barbados forward again. I thank you and good evening.